Welcome back. This video is going to be a reading of Genesis chapter 10 and with a little bit of commentary. So let's open up with a prayer and then we'll get right into it. Lord, I thank you for today. I thank you for the ability to do this. I thank you for understanding and wisdom that you've given to me. I thank you that you're not done. I thank you that you've given to me so that I can give to others. Holy Spirit, you're welcome here. You're always welcome here. Have your way. Lead us wherever you want to go. Bring to our remembrance the things you want us to know. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so Genesis 10. So we've been talking about Noah and the flood, and then he gets off the boat 9-10 months later, and now he's on the land. And what do we do now? Right? He's a drunk. Well, he turned to the vine, the fruits of the vine, to deal with his PTSD. One of his sons seen him naked. The other two were like, dude, what are you doing? Son who seen him naked, the son who seen him naked is cursed. The other two are not. And now here we go. Okay. Chapter 10, verse 1. Now this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, however you want to say it. And the sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. The sons of Javan were Elisha with two H's, Tarshish, Kittim, and Danodim, or Dadonim. Okay, something to note here. Tarshish is a city that becomes popular once Saul is introduced into the story in the New Testament, when he becomes Paul. Okay, so a lot of these names, because we didn't have back in these times this government agency to go to say, hey, we want to do this. If it pleases the crown, would you give us permission to name our city this name? Or what would you have as a better name, Your Highness? We didn't have a government agency to do that. So a lot of these names of people become names of places. Okay, so Tarshish is one. Elisha is another one. And throughout the course of history, these people, places, have gotten renamed because history is written by the winner. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. That's a thing that, or a kind of like an idea that's contemporary in these times when this was written, is that people are like, what should we name it? I don't know. We're going to name it Greg because that's my name and I found it. And then they just go on with that. Okay, it's really simple. It's nothing sensational. It's nothing overly complicated. It's really clean and simple. Okay, but that's also something to consider, because we'll get later on into Genesis and we'll get to Jacob, and Jacob becomes Israel the person, but also Israel the place. Okay? So this is the thing with God. This is one of the ways that God makes sure you get remembered the right way and for the right reasons. Okay? Verse 5. From these, the coastland peoples of the Gentiles were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their families, into their nations. Okay? So, we've got 5 verses here that span, let's say, 200-300 years. All right? 4 or 5 generations. How long does it take for a family that started from 3 people? How long does it take for all those people to come up with their own languages? Right? That takes a little bit. Now we've got Noah, and then his kids, the sons, right? And then the grandsons. So we've got 3 generations here, but they all started with their own language, or they all started different languages. Okay, and that's very similar to all the denominations in the church. Okay, there's only one church. There's only one. There's not Jesus' Church of Latter-day Saints, and then Jesus' Church of Nineveh or Nazarene, and then Jesus' Church, the Catholic Church, and then Jesus is non-denominational. There's only one church. We are the ones that made all the different denominations, to include Mormonism, to include Buddhism, to include Islam, all these different ways of thinking, all these different religious disciplines or doctrines. They all started with one. And all of each person, or if you trace it back, each one of them was like, you know what? Like, I like this over here, and I like this, but I don't like that, so we're just not going to do that. But we're going to take this over here. Because I think instead of that, we're going to do this. So we're going to take all this stuff and put it over here, and now we're going to be a new religion. Okay? That's how this works. All the different denominations really boil down to the pride of man. Rather than following what it says, I'm cherry picking what I want. Okay, and it's kind of like the same principle is kind of true with like hipster culture, and even it kind of addresses it a little bit. Paul addresses it a little bit there in Acts 17, I think, when he's talking about, he goes into Rome, maybe Greece, and there's a statue there, the statue of the unknown or the statue of the anonymous, depending on the translation. And he says that there are people just standing around the statue all day and they have nothing better to do but to learn some new thing. Okay? They're like knowledge and intellect chasers. Okay? And like with craft beer, same thing. It's a very similar principle. Okay? The basics get boring, so we want to reinvent the wheel, and then we end up coming right back to what the basics are. But we bring a few things from what we've learned back into the fold, so the basics become a little bit better. But there's a reason why a wheel is round and not a square. Because once you put it to practice, it's going to become a circle anyway. Even if it's ovular shaped, like egg shaped, it's still going to become a circle given enough time. A circle being the shape for a wheel is the final result. It doesn't matter where you start. That's the final result, okay? So this principle applies in the church. The final result of the church is Jesus the Christ. It doesn't matter where you start. That's where you should end up. And if you don't, you've done something wrong. Okay, and this may be unpopular to some people who don't believe in Jesus. And I'm going to put it this way. This is the year 2025. Last year was 2024. The year before that was 2023. So as we go back in years, we're counting down. The thing that happened 2,000, roughly 2,000 years ago, is the birth of Jesus. Now, you can get into all the paganism and all that. I don't care. It's not important. If you want to go that route, go that route. I'm not. This channel is not for that. But we're counting from the birth of Jesus. We're not counting from the birth of the Egyptian god Xerxes or the Persian god Xerxes. We're not counting from the birth of Hercules. We're not counting from the Big Bang. We're not counting from Muhammad. We're not counting from the Qing dynasty in China. We're not counting from any of these other things. Okay, we're not counting from when Christopher Columbus discovered the United States, India. We're not counting from any of these things. We're counting from the birth of Jesus. That's where our numbers are coming from. And that's accepted around the world. So that's kind of the proof that Jesus is pretty important. Must have been really important to somebody. Okay, now all religious doctrines should terminate with Jesus. That should be the end result. Because there's one church. But there's a bunch of us running around that are like, well, I want to do church this way. And now we've got the Church of Christ or Latter-day Saints or whatever it is, okay? So this principle of people wanting to do their own thing is not new. We're seeing it here. In 3 generations, we've already got multiple languages. Okay? Verse 6. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Canaan is a place. It's even a place in when Jesus is walking the earth during his ministry. Okay? The sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabtakah. And the sons of Ramah were Sheba and Dedan. Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. Okay? When I think of Nimrod, I think of that album from Green Day back in the early 90s, I think. Early 1990s. Because I'm from the 1900s. I've always heard the word Nimrod being used in a derogatory way. Like, you're an idiot. You're a Nimrod. But here, Nimrod is a mighty one on earth. Genesis chapter 10, verse 8. 9, verse 9. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Okay? 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Ir, Kala, and Rezin between Nineveh and Kala. That is the principal city. Okay? Nineveh is underneath what is currently known today as Mosul. And when I got out of the military, I spent a year in Mosul with the United States government. There's a lot of stuff. Maybe you could call it lore, L-O-R-E. There's a lot of stuff there that is around that place. Okay? And there was a time there where I was walking through a clearing. I was walking with a friend of mine at the time. I haven't kept up with him, and it was getting ready to rain, so it was probably December, maybe November. It was getting ready to rain, and this gentleman looks at me. He's like, you can tell how far away the lightning is by when you see it. You count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, and how many seconds it takes to hear the thunder. That's how many miles it is away. 1 second equals 1 mile. So we're walking along, and he's talking to me about the Lord, and at this time I'm not a believer. And lightning is about 5 to 6 miles away. So it takes about 5, 6, 1,000 to get to us. And I look at him and I'm like, you know what, man? I don't believe in this God crap. And there was lightning and a crack right there. I mean, immediately. And he looks at me and he's like, you better watch who you're talking about, buddy. Someone's listening. Someone wants to get your attention. Now, this is back in late 2007, early 2008. Okay, and I did not get saved until 2014. But that's one of many memories I have of Mosul, which is built on top of what used to be Nineveh. And there are some places you can go on the internet and you can look up tours. There are some places where you can still go down and see some of the old ruins of Nineveh that are underneath the city. Okay? There's a lot of history there. But here it is in Genesis chapter 10, Nineveh being built by Nimrod. Okay? Verse 13. Mizraim begot Ludim, Anamim, Lehabim, Nephtahim, Pathrusim, and Casluhim, from whom came the Philistines and the Caphtorim. Philistines are popular with David. And when we get to 1st and 2nd Samuel, we'll read some more about David and his beef with the Philistines. Okay? Canaan begot Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, the Jebusite, the Amorite, and the Girgashite, the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, the Arvadite, the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. Afterward, the families of the Canaanites were dispersed, and the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as you go toward Gerar, as far as Gaza. Then as you go towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, as far as Lasha. These were the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their languages, in the lands and in their nations. Some popular names in here: Canaanites, Sodom, Gomorrah, Jebusites, Amorites, right? These are all people with different languages, and these are Noah's grandkids, great-grandkids, right? So three, 4, possibly 5 generations down the line from Noah, and we got all these people in there. They're all kind of spreading because the Lord said He was going to start over and multiply humanity again. Okay, some of these Gaza here, Gaza Strip there in the Middle East, right there around Israel, Jerusalem, and Palestine. So that's here in Genesis chapter 10. So this was roughly written 3,000-ish years ago, more or less. And it's a place that was in here back in the day. So, there's a lot of history here. 21. And the children were born also to Shem, and children were born also to Shem, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder. The sons of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. 24. Arphaxad begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber. So with Eber, we're about 6 or 7 generations deep. Okay? To Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Joktan begot Almadad, Sheleph, Hazarmapheth, Gerar, Hadaram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abamiel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan, and their dwelling place was from Mesha as you go towards Sephar, the mountain of the east. These were the sons of Shem according to their families, according to the languages in their lands, according to their nations. 32. Now these were the families of the sons of Noah, according to their generations, in their nations, and from these nations were divided on earth after the flood. Okay? Now, something I wondered a while back, who cares about all these names? Who cares? Okay, and the Lord reminded me of the feeding of the 5,000 besides women and children that Jesus did. Depending on which gospel you're reading, he did it twice. So, 5 loaves, 2 fish, and they picked up 12 baskets with the scraps of food from 5 loaves and 2 fish. Okay? I was like, Lord, what does that have to do with these names? And he said, Jake, I don't waste anything. Everything gets used. Everything gets remembered. Everything gets used. Nothing is discarded. Okay? God doesn't make things to forget them. Okay? He's not like us where we walk around, we empty out our pockets, put them on a table, and then all of a sudden that becomes the cluttered table or the cluttered drawer or the cluttered desk or whatever, and it just has a pile of crap on it from us just putting it down, and now we don't remember where things are at. God doesn't misplace things. He's not scatterbrained. Everything is intentional. Okay? But his intention is different than my intention. Okay? My intention may be, I'm trying to be rich, I'm trying to have a great house, trying to have a good family someday, trying to be successful at work. You know, all these things are important to me. But God's intention is, I'm just trying to get my lost people back to me. I'm just trying to have a one-on-one relationship with my sons and daughters who are lost and out there headed towards the pigsty, like the prodigal son. That's his intention. So everything gets used. Okay, think about how absurd it is where you would spend your time creating a thing and then immediately throw it away. That's like, maybe you spend your time building a desk, right? And let's say you build it out of cherry wood, because cherry has good grain, good coloration to it, and you build this desk and it looks pretty, it's got the right curves, and you sand it all flat, and then you're like, okay, cool, and then you chuck it in the fire or you throw it in a dumpster. That's dumb. Nobody does that. Well, God doesn't do it either. All these names, this is God saying, hey, I grew humanity just like I said I was going to do. I grew humanity. I was committed to having humanity multiply again, and I did it. And I remember all the names because I said, and we'll get to it here with Abraham in a little while, your descendants shall number the stars. Count the stars if you can. That will be like your descendants. So here he is doing it. Here he is doing it. Okay? Starting all over again. Now we've got some good and we've got some bad. Philistines are in there. We read it that the Philistines are like enemies of God. Right? David hates them. But the point is, God doesn't forget anything. He remembers everything. David says in the Psalms, Lord, where can I go from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, hell, purgatory, the underworld, you are there. If I'm cast out into outer darkness, you are there. Where can I go from your presence? God is everywhere. He sees everything that's happening. All of it. He remembers. David says, also in the Psalms, how's it go? What is the Son of Man that you would care for him? And who is man that you are mindful of him? Why would you care about us? in other words, right? So the names are important, at least for now, because these names became places. A lot of them did. And God remembers everybody. Nobody that has come into being is made arbitrarily. So maybe we keep that in mind when we get to this abortion topic. And where abortion is in the Bible too. We're going to get to that. Okay? So, with that, that's a reading of Genesis 10, with a little bit of commentary.